The Rockville Summit 2012 continued the conversation about Rockville's core issues.
I'm Larry Finkelberg, who'll be talking to us about housing.
Good morning, Rockville. I'd like to very quickly thank all of these summit organizers for putting this great event together. I certainly would like to thank all of you for getting up early on a Saturday and attending. And I would also like to especially thank my fellow committee members. We were lucky to have a real cross-section of the entire Rockville community represented. And our findings and our recommendations are truly a result of that diversity. This was a tremendous commitment of time and energy, and maybe some, myself included, didn't realize how much of a commitment it was, but they all did a tremendous job. So I would personally like to thank everybody up on this list today. From the outset, there was a very concerted effort to take a realistic approach to this. We didn't want to make recommendations based on what we hoped or wished Rockville's future housing situation would be. We based them on what they were actually going to be. And in doing so, there were certain realities that we just agreed we had to face. First, population growth. If Dr. Fuller's report is accurate, the city will see growth of 35% over the next 30 years. Number two, there is almost no new developable land in Rockville or in Montgomery County for that matter. Number three, the surrounding areas are in the same boat and they are planning accordingly. So Rockville must accept it is, in a sense, competing with these areas in the coming decades. Rockville cannot continue to be the community we all love unless it develops a housing plan that accounts for these challenges. And if we accept that, we must also accept two other realities. Number one, redevelopment of lower density areas will be critical to Rockville's success in the future. Number two, growth and development should not be restricted, but rather managed. If policies are put in place that unduly restrict future development, it will limit the city's ability to compete and ultimately maintain the services the residents hold dear. There's another challenge the city faces, more subtle, but of critical importance. There is the perception among the business and development community that Rockville is often not accommodative to growth, to business, or to development. Now, I'm sure that everybody in this room believes that to a varying extent, or maybe you don't believe that to be true at all. So the merits of that perception can and will be argued. But the bottom line is that that is the perception, and perception is reality. And if that perception persists, Rockville runs the risk of the private sector choosing to engage elsewhere. And if that occurs, the implications could be far-reaching. Continued aging of the housing stock, caps on property tax growth, reduced revenue, higher housing costs, less affordable housing, reduced diversity. But these challenges, they also provide Rockville a very unique opportunity to offer residents an alternative to the excessive growth that we're already starting to see in some of the surrounding areas. The recommendations offered in this report were made with the aforementioned challenges front and center, but also with how we can seize on the opportunities these challenges present. Now again, we're working with very limited time, so it's hard for me to go into any real depth on these recommendations, so I just want to highlight the areas we addressed and touch on some of the recommendations. If I'm not mistaken, the full report is available on the city website. So diversity, one of Rockville's huge strengths, strong economic and ethnic diversity. And the committee sees maintaining that diversity as paramount to Rockville's future. There are many ways to do this, not the least of which is creating a master plan that supports a diverse housing stock that in turn accommodates a diverse population. Rockville seniors. That portion of the population is expected to grow both in number and as a percentage of overall population. And they play a huge role in the city's success. We made several recommendations that could help seniors age in place, staying in their homes when possible, and if not that, still staying in the community. The moderately priced dwelling unit ordinance, or MPDU. This requires that all new residential development in excess of 50 units, allocate 12.5% to 15% of those units for rent or sale to moderate income households. That is defined as 60% or less of the area median income. There is no doubt this ordinance has been a very effective tool in maintaining economic diversity in Rockville. But the MPDU program has gone very little change since its inception. It's recommended policymakers do a thorough review of the MPDU, and we made several suggestions on possible improvements to it. You know, from the first meeting, we discussed this concept of maintaining Rockville's community. In order to do that, we had to first define what that was. So we do that in the report, and we offer suggestions on how housing policy can help create and maintain community. The town center is a perfect example of how that might work. Green development, it's a reality and will be increasingly more so. We suggested several realistic incentives the city can offer developers to go green. The single family issue was interesting. Obviously, as development occurs, the percentage of single family stock will decrease on an overall basis, but we saw tremendous value in creating policies that preserve the existing single family stock. But that stock is aging. The city must identify ways to support the upkeep of those homes. We make several suggestions on how that can be done. We also offered 6 additional recommendations on how the city can achieve that in the single family stock, but also the existing affordable multifamily housing that's in the city. Lastly, the committee feels the city's variance in the APFO from that of the counties could potentially serve as a detriment to a successful housing plan, and recommends significant consideration be given to changing it to mirror more of the counties. Just to button this up, I mean, Rockville's residents have a very unique bond with their city. There is a tremendous sense of community, and that community is very engaged in shaping its own future. Look no further than this room. Our hope is that this report provides a roadmap for Rockville's housing plan to change and to grow while always staying Rockville.